Today I'm going to talk about the #1 secret why gold and silver are rising. It's a disappearing act that is so great that not even Chris Angel, David Blaine, or the great Harry Houdini could pull this off. Throughout history, there have been a great deal of spectacular hoaxes perpetrated upon mankind. And in fact, in daily life, there's so many hoaxes perpetrated daily that I guarantee you believe in the reality of something that is fake every single day. For example, in 1870 in the Orange River in South Africa, tons of diamonds were discovered, which basically relegated the diamond to the status of a semi-precious gem, no longer a precious gem. Yet 140 years later, here we are in 2010, and hundreds of thousands of people all over the world are still willing to pay for the diamond as if it were a precious gem, even though it is not. And by the way, if you don't believe the diamond scam I just described, go to any reputable diamond dealer and buy a 1-carat high-quality diamond and return to that dealer 24 hours later and discover what you will receive for that diamond in comparison to the original price you paid just 24 hours earlier. And do the same with 1 fine troy ounce of gold, and you'll discover what I mean very, very quickly. Art historians are in general consensus that the master Rembrandt painted about 320 original pieces of artwork. Yet, at a point in time not too long ago, art museums around the world displayed 600 Rembrandts as originals, and private collectors held another 350 Rembrandts that they believed to be originals. So that means fully 2/3 of all Rembrandts around the world believed to be originals were fake. And I can guarantee you that at some point in time, Sotheby's and Christie's, the likelihood that Sotheby's and Christie's has sold a fake painting as an original for millions of dollars is probably very, very high, because art dealers and art historians around the world have estimated that the number of fakes, the percent of fakes in the high-end art world is probably around 40%. So what does this great disappearing act involve? Well, here it is. It's the almighty US dollar. However, the scam involves not just the US dollar, it involves all paper currencies. So it involves the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, the euro, the yen, the pound sterling, the yuan, the Canadian dollar, the Mexican peso. So wherever you live for the remainder of this video, basically you can replace this with the currency you use in your own country, and this video, what I say in this video, will still be relevant. So there's economic chaos right now all over the world, and in Europe, you can look at Spain, Hungary, Romania, Germany, United Kingdom, Iceland, Ireland. There's all kinds of economic problems in all these countries. You look in the Americas, of course, the United States is suffering a lot right now. There's problems in Mexico. In Asia, there are certainly property bubbles forming in Hong Kong, China, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand. So the root of all these problems is basically a fake monetary system. And I'm going to try to describe to you visually in about 4 minutes how this system is so fake. Many of you may not understand why I call the monetary system fake. You say, how can this, the US dollar that's existed since 1913, we've used this for over 100 years, be fake? Well, just because so many millions and billions of people believe in the authenticity and validity of a system does not make it so, does not make it real to begin with. You see, there's a lot of people in this world that don't even understand that this is just an illusion. This is only a paper representation of the digital idea that is money. So in other words, of all the so-called money in the system, about 98% of it is digital. It doesn't even exist as paper. So if you have $100,000, $500,000, $2 million in your bank account, it's not there. It's just a digital credit that exists on your account. So if you ever wanted to withdraw that money, the banks would basically have to go to the branches of the Fed Reserve to ask them to print the money, because they do not have it. So on any given day, if depositors showed up at a bank and only asked to withdraw 20% of their deposits, that bank would be bankrupt, because they would not have that money to give out to you. So basically every bank product out there is fake. You are paying interest, credit cards, mortgages. This money does not even exist. This bank is lending out money that they don't have. They just created digital credit and they charge you interest on this digital credit for zero labor that is performed. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. So here's the big secret that bankers don't want you to understand. The number one secret why gold and silver are soaring at the moment. Bankers set up the global monetary system basically to rob you, to bamboozle you, to deceive you, to lie to you, to steal from you. Now imagine that this dollar bill represents your annual salary. Well, if you earn a decent salary in the United States, about 1/3 of your salary will come out in the form of Social Security taxes and federal income taxes. So you can snip away very quickly 1/3 of that salary, and this is what you're left with. Now, if you live in the most populous state in America, California, you're going to lose about 9.3% to the state income tax. So again, you can snip away this much. So nothing shocking there. Most people understand that concept, that this is what you're left with your annual salary. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Now, this is what you're left with, and this is what you need to live on. You need to pay all your expenses, your food, your entertainment, your travel for the year. And between 2000 and 2008, the central banks devalued the dollar so much that it lost about 50%. So you actually held what's left of your salary, 100% of it, in your savings account. Well, within 8 years, 50% of that was gone. So basically, this is what you're left with. Okay, so now it looks like living just got a lot more difficult. So what about the future? Well, we all know about the currency wars that are going on right now. The Bank of Japan is deliberately intervening to devalue the yen even further, which is triggering all central banks in a race to the bottom in this currency war. So all central banks are now engaging in a war to destroy the valuation of their currencies. So if the US dollar lost 50% of its purchasing power between 2000 and 2008, with the unforeseen shocks that are going to be inevitable in the future, you could say that a 50% devaluation is not unreasonable to say it could happen in 5 years, 4 years, maybe even 3 years with some shocks. So you need to snip away another 50%. And now this is what you're looking at as far as your annual salary just after, say, 11, 12, or 13 years. Basically, with what you're left with, this, of course, as you spend this money, you are charged a number of innumerable other taxes that are out there. And here's the list of other taxes now. The reason I removed those taxes from this example is because we do receive some social benefits from these other taxes. So, in other words, property taxes paid towards our education in schools. We have gasoline taxes that pay for construction of roads and so forth. So remember this, the very large 1/3 part of your salary that came out in federal income taxes and Social Security taxes. Now, don't we get benefits from this, you ask? Well, not really. The Social Security tax, it's the program's an unfunded liability right now that is a huge Ponzi scheme. The government basically takes money from Jack to pay Jill. And furthermore, with the Social Security scheme, the payment schedule of benefits is such that most people will never actually receive all the money that the government took out of their paycheck before they die. And secondly, with the massive currency devaluation that is going on right now, you'll probably get dollars that are worth 50%, 40%, 30%, 10% of the dollars that you paid into the system. So you're definitely not getting the equivalent amount of purchasing power back from this program. Now, with the federal income tax, 100% of that goes to paying off debt on the national interest and transfer payments. So in 2008, we saw what the transfer payments were, as there was an $850 billion bailout, which basically just took money out of American taxpayer pockets and gave them and deposited them right into the pockets of bankers. And as far as the interest on the national debt, that again is in essence a transfer payment that's coming straight out of our pockets and into the pockets of the wealthiest banking families in the country. In essence, this really is a part of your annual salary that you should be able to keep, and that would help us all out if we were able to keep this part. It should be really apparent why a lot of Americans are struggling out there, because you start with this, and then after 13 years, you're left trying to live off of this. And even if you double your salary, say oh, I just, double my salary from $100,000 a year to $200,000, you would think, oh, that should double my quality of life. Not so, because you start again with this, and after 13 years, the fraudulent nature of this monetary system will leave you with this. This is actually what you have left to spend. And then the indignity on top of all this is that when you die, even though this is now left in your bank account, what will go to your kids and your children, if you are in the highest bracket of the estate tax, 50% of that, again, is taken by the government. So you're basically left with this. So from your lifespan, you go from this to this in 13 years, and this to this upon death. If we had a gold standard, history shows us that if we start with this, 20 years later, we will still have the purchasing power of this. So I hope I've been able to describe to you the biggest disappearing act in history in about 5 minutes. If you wish to keep up to date with other videos we may produce about this topic, please subscribe to our YouTube video. Thanks for watching.